So, Joe, there is some speculation out there as we just talked about, but just to bring it back up, just in case you want to, we want to clip this or anything. But Pete Nakos of On3 says the Cincinnati Bengals are bringing in Notre Dame DC Al Golden in for an interview. The current expectation is that Golden will become the next defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. Your thoughts?
Look, this was something that had been floated out there for a while, and I think Notre Dame fans stubbornly were hoping that this would not come to fruition. But Al Golden was hired off of Zach Taylor's coaching staff. Lou Anarumo was a fantastic defensive coordinator, and his time was cut short because of roster issues, yada, yada, yada. We're not here to talk the pro game. Al Golden is recognized as one of the best defensive coordinators in college football. He produced amazing results. When the NFL comes calling, you take those opportunities. I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame doesn't try to be aggressive to counter this, but the NFL money and the NFL coordinator money is sometimes stupid. It is very hard to be able to match. I'd be curious to see what happens here. If I'm a Notre Dame fan, though, I'm not crazy worried because this is not like when Swarbrick was the athletic director. The money that they spent to bring in Mike Denbrock, I think, is an indication that they're going to be willing to spend the money to go after another premier defensive coordinator. I'm not totally sure off the top of my head at the current moment. I'm kind of pulling together just a quick list of options. I don't know who they're going to go to, but I would think that they're probably going to go after and go for a premier name. Maybe it's a big-time up-and-comer, but they're going to spend the money.
In reference to Al Golden, look, when this came out last night, okay, I don't think that guys and reporters go out there and say things like this if they don't feel pretty confident about where things lean at the current moment. I mean, common sense is common sense. In reference to Al Golden, okay, look, it's difficult to, I know that there were some complaints. Even we complained about him just a minute ago about the game last night. Man, they had a really good defense. I mean, they look good. I do think that a lot of the things that he tries to do is NFL worthy. I mean, Joe, you play a lot of man coverage. You play a lot of quarters coverage. I mean, look, man, I think his style fits with what the NFL game looks for. Cincinnati needs a defense. Offensively, they were one of the better teams in the NFL. Defensively, they stunk. He's got weapons there too. You're right. The coordinator money in the NFL is ridiculous. And if he's not going to get head coaching opportunities in college football, why not? In reference to Notre Dame, Joe, I agree on one massive principle that you didn't really mention, but this is just a massive principle. I'm never really worried about when a head coach hat leans on one side of the football, where they go there, right? Meaning, I don't like when Nick Saban was let me not compare Saban. Look at Ryan Day. Look at Steve Sarkisian. Look at Kirby Smart. Like these really good coaches, offensively, defensively, they don't stink. They know what they're doing there. It's more times out of not that it's the other side of the football that they make wrong and right decisions. I do think that the worst case scenario that can happen for you is that Marcus Freeman calls plays. It's the worst thing that can happen.
And that is the worst thing. I don't want Marcus Freeman calling plays. I don't want him calling plays.
It's the worst thing that can happen.
I don't want him being distracted because he's getting better and better. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
Well, regardless, if the outright worst thing happens, you have one of the best coordinators that's ever graced college football. So the point that I'm trying to make here is I think he's going to make another really good defensive coordinator hire. I love Denbrock. I love what he does there. I think that they'll do that here. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes.
I'm kind of looking. Here's the number one option. Friend of the show, Ryan Roberts, who covers Notre Dame. He wrote in an article that.
Why'd you air quote Ryan Roberts?
I didn't air quote. Did I mean to?
You did.
I didn't mean that wasn't intentional. I was just putting my hand in there.
Our good friend Ryan Roberts.
I didn't. That wasn't the intention. I just moved my hand. My good friend, maybe not good friend of yours. Mike Mickens, who's a secondary coach, is somebody that he cited as a potential option for the direction that Notre Dame goes in, which actually is a tremendous move for them. If there is an internal decision, and I know that they're probably going to do an external search, but to go after Mickens and to bring him, or not to bring him, but to promote him, knowing how good Notre Dame's secondary was this year and was the contingency of their success and the elevation of the young guys and how quickly they were able to contribute, I think that Mickens is an amazing option. But the rest of this, I'm looking at, like, here are the top scoring defenses this year. Ohio State, Jim Knowles isn't leaving. Ole Miss, Pete Golding's not leaving.
No.
Texas's DC, I'm blanking on his name. He's not leaving. Indiana's defensive coordinator, it was his first year. I think that would be risky to hire a guy that was in his first premier year at a team with a pretty weak schedule. Tennessee's probably not losing their DC. Penn State was number 8, and they just lost theirs.
Freeman knows.
Wait, Denbrock wasn't per se.
Yeah, they were in Cincinnati together. They played. They coached. Their coordinators for Luke Fickell at Cincinnati that year. They got to the playoff.
You know who's number 14 in scoring defense?
Who?
NIU.